Pedestrian crashes are on the rise in Cincinnati. The incidents have actually increased over the years, with more than 400 last year.
Yeah, you can see the graph here, but you know, who's really at fault in these crashes, the driver or the pedestrian? As 9 on Your Side transportation reporter Pat LaFleur explains, a lot of times it's impossible to know for sure.
It's one of the simplest activities there is, walking through your neighborhood. Turns out though, in Ohio, where you can walk and when is actually really complicated.
Kristen Schroeder has walked to and from her Covington home and her downtown office for more than 15 years.
I start walking through Covington. I live on 7th Street, so it's mostly residential until I get down to like Bakewell and 4th Street, 5th Street. And so then it's a little bit busier. A lot of people commuting to work in the morning, so traffic increases speed-wise and all that fun stuff.
But there are some times when even she, a seasoned pedestrian, isn't sure when or where she's legally allowed to cross. She said she's almost been hit even in crosswalks. Several times.
I think I've got the green guy telling me it's okay to go, and I'll have to always look over my shoulder because there'll be cars waiting to turn left. I was a little surprised because I thought I had the right of way, and I'm learning that that might not necessarily be the case.
She's right. Ohio law states that even if you're crossing in a crosswalk with a walk signal, you might not necessarily have the right of way. That's according to Ohio trial attorney Steve Magus.
Maybe, maybe not. I mean, the law is really weird.
Magus has made a career representing people injured in traffic crashes. He said it's not always obvious to people walking or people driving when a cross is legal, even at marked crosswalks.
Even at a light, the law requires a pedestrian to yield to someone who's, say, making a right turn, who comes up into the crosswalk, even though there's a red light.
And say there's no crosswalk at all. People definitely can't cross there, right? Well, not so fast.
Where there's an intersection of a road to another road, but there's no crosswalk, there is an unmarked crossing there. That's a place where you're allowed to cross.
All of this, Magus says, makes it near impossible to know when and where you can cross legally.
It's an odd, and you're supposed to do that analysis, as is the motorist who sees you standing there.
Questions like these keep coming up more and more as Cincinnati sees record high rates of pedestrian-involved crashes. It's a problem leaders like Councilman Greg Landsman are eager to fix. Landsman points to speeding and distraction behind the wheel as the primary culprit.
I think it's a combination of a few things. I mean, mostly, though, it's people speeding and folks who are distracted behind the wheel.
For Magus, though, the ambiguity of the law makes it difficult, if not impossible, to know who's really to blame in most cases.
When somebody gets hurt badly, a lawsuit comes up, and now lawyers on both sides are really digging into these cases. You know, and a pedestrian often loses because these cases generally come up in situations that aren't glaringly obvious as to what happened.
For Schroeder, she said she's not willing to risk that.
I just try to be aware. I think it's my ownership to ensure that I'm paying attention.
Now, it turns out that the research varies as far as who's at fault more often, the walker or the driver. 9 on Your Side is digging through local data now to get you answers. Reporting from downtown, I'm Pat LaFleur.
And Pat tells us there are even more layers to these traffic laws than we could even fit in one broadcast. You can read about it over on WCPO.com. And all through 2019, Pat and the Move Up Cincinnati team will bring you continuing coverage of all things transportation and growth throughout the tri-state.